Can you get more or less?
But take the microphone because there will be more.
It's nice.
I
can. Because if I don't like your question, I can say it easier. Sorry. Please give me the microphone.
Yeah. There is a microphone there. Can I get?
Yeah, please. Sure.
I will get it back.
No, a little bit more dynamic. Okay. Now I'm becoming a Stalinist. Somebody sabotage.
Maybe next time.
No, I'm not a Stalinist. I'm just. I think the most actual thing today happening is in Turkey, and I happen to be from that country, and I feel really provoked when you say that you live in a state who attacks hundreds of thousands of people right now, and just because they're trying to save a park. And I don't see any class mention that I'm having trouble. Actually, my first question was that, but then you said something about you live in a state. Yeah. And what's going on in our country is completely different. They want democracy, and there is democracy, but within democracy there's a dictatorship of majority, and we have a state, working state, economy is great, and these all different groups gathering together against a leader that has been democratically elected. How do you describe the situation going on in Turkey now?
It may surprise you, but I'm very well informed. I have many friends there. For example, a guy called, I'm sorry if I will not pronounce his name correctly, from the journal Monocle, Volkan Celebi. Does this ring a bell to you? And then my publisher Encore there. I know many people there, and I think simply that it's a good lesson to all of us Turkey, because as you know, I'm sure better than me, till recently Turkey was celebrated in the West as the example of the Islamism with the human face, democratic, blah, blah, blah. And here I think that unfortunately Turkey is another example of what I see as a general tendency today. I think this will more and more be the global model, that you have a very efficient developing capitalism, but ideally functioning with a kind of a much more organic, closed, in whatever way, either religiously or ethnically, slightly authoritarian democracy. I think that states as different than Singapore, Turkey, Russia, and so on, they are all moving in this direction. And I agree with you, but frankly, this was always the paradox. I am a communist, but I have no illusions here. Do you think that in Egypt it was in any way different? Let's be extremely brutal. Even in the most ecstatic moments of Tahrir Square, I claim maybe there was a generally spread sympathy, but even then I doubt it was the sympathy of the majority of the people. It's a very paradoxical situation in Egypt. What triggered demonstrations was precisely, it's very sad what I will say now, the relative openness and new educated young generation middle class of people in Mubarak's Egypt, and so they had the access to internet, all these new digital media, but they saw that path, career is blocked. So it was, let's call it, I don't know, spirit of openness, civil society and so on, but I don't think they ever had the majority behind them. And I'm here simply a pessimist. Pessimist in the sense that it all depends on what you mean with majority. If you mean with, democracy. If you mean with democracy, simple majority rule, it's for me a meaningless category. I mean, maybe this will sound almost Stalinist, but I think that a functioning democracy is almost always a matter of a group, not a dictatorial communist party group, but a group with more articulated awareness, in some way seducing the others into enthusiasm, imposing its will. And if you are lucky, you can get not even passive support, but just general active support, but general passive sympathy. So again, I don't see any paradox in this. Of course it's like this. I mean, most of authoritarian regimes do have the support of the majority. Democracies, this may sound strange to you coming from a communist, but I'm a strange communist, okay? I will put it like this. You know what I mean? So I don't see absolutely anything surprising in what is happening in Turkey today. I think that quite on the contrary, Turkey is pretty much on the same wavelength as what the new emerging. But can I ask you something else? Because my friends told me, wasn't there in Turkey already a year or two ago a horrible, small but nonetheless incident which was not adequately reported in the West, where somewhere in the middle of Turkey 100 journalists, intellectuals were arrested as part of some totally crazy accusation that together with the army they were preparing the coup d'etat and so on.
I think you talked about Ergenekon. There's also a problem that actually the main media and all journalists who are critical about him are jailed.
And then, is it true? Friends told me that now recently they proposed something like to reduce or cancel state support for classical music, orchestra and all that. You know, this may appear small things, but it's clear what's the general tendency and what makes me. I mean, it can happen. Miracles always happen. That's my basic axiom in politics. Like, imagine people even imagining that 3 years ago that something like Arab Spring can happen. So things explode. But at the same time, you know, it's my eternal question, which I raised before, the day after. You can have a beautiful democratic explosion. Again, what will happen? I'm not a priori pessimist here. Like, some people claim, what is now in Egypt? It's even worse. Islamists and the army in power. No, it's not as simple as that. Because nonetheless, my friends from Egypt are telling me, civil society has awakened. Even they are crashed. You have trade unions, students, feminists, you know, like society is getting alive. And maybe this will be at least the temporary result. It's the same in Iran and so on. And Iran is interesting also now again. In Turkey, maybe some kind of awakened civil society will remain and the battle will go on. But again, I don't have any illusions here. I don't believe in this old Marxist populist, how do you call it, predestined harmony, you know, that somehow in the long term people and progressive intellectuals will find themselves on the same wavelength in some big progressive alliance. No, I think there are miracles. Momentarily, here and there, a magic moment can happen, where people unite and so on. But it's usually very rare. It's very rare, usually. Again, in Egypt, I claim that we should never forget that those who really participated in it, Tahrir Square was maximum, according to my friends' estimates, 15, maybe 20% of the people. And it's all a question of political initiative, will of literally imposing your hegemony at that moment. I'm sorry we don't have more time, because the question I would ask you is, I found a nice irony how many Turks were complaining till 10 years or 5 ago how this Kemalist army, a threat, controlled democracy, but now some of them have almost a nostalgia for the secular Kemalist army, and so on. It's wonderful, ironic situation, and again, I don't think that would be, so that I stop repeating myself, that would be my lesson here, that it's nothing extraordinary, although it's extremely important what is happening in Turkey. But it's symptomatic of what is going on all around today.
So maybe we can continue with more questions. There was one.
Yes, upstairs.
Can I see some more?